Today I wanted to talk about Bitcoin before this potential breakout occurs, and where are we going after that. So before we begin, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. This is iFinance, so let's get into it. So Bitcoin continues to consolidate. However, we are already seeing that it is close to a potential big move. Now, the truth is that nobody knows whether this move will be either to the upside or the downside. However, historically speaking, there seems to be more or less a 50-50 chance of it going up or down. So anyone telling you anything with certainty right now, I think is lying to you. In any case, I think it is important to focus on Bitcoin's actual fundamentals. I would point out that many factors suggest that Bitcoin's intrinsic value is at least $8,000 to $12,000, if not more. Looking at valuation models like the stock-to-flow ratio, the price correlations with adoption, for example, the number of active wallets, or even just looking at the hash rate itself, it is evident that Bitcoin is not overvalued. But more importantly, Bitcoin is fundamentally heading in the right direction, which is why I think that long term we should be fine holding Bitcoin, and personally I think we're gonna make a lot of money. We have recently seen how central banks across the world continue to adopt accommodative financial measures to help stimulate their economies. Historically, these types of policies tend to be positive for precious metals like gold. I think it should also be positive for Bitcoin itself. Case in point, recently the ECB, which is Europe's central bank, decided to restart its quantitative easing program. In response to this, it seems that Bitcoin has rallied as well. And this makes sense when you compare to the previous rate cut from the Federal Reserve as well. Once the Federal Reserve cut rates for the first time in almost a decade, we saw Bitcoin post a massive rally to the upside. So the fact that the Federal Reserve is going to cut once again, next week by the way, should be positive for Bitcoin. And it is interesting to see that this seems to coincide with the present consolidation pattern that we have seen recently. It could very well be that the next rate cut could act as a catalyst for Bitcoin's next leg higher. And at the same time, something we have been seeing as well is that the altcoins remain in a bear market. In my view, this is probably because ultimately only Bitcoin is a real store of value. Every other coin might have an exciting project or intention behind it, but it is not inherently a currency in and of itself. And this is why I think the vast majority of altcoins will eventually become worthless. Nevertheless, I think that perhaps some altcoins could pay off, but none will be as relevant as Bitcoin itself. But that's just my opinion. Recently, we have seen that Bitcoin seems to be holding very well. And as you've seen in my chart, it looks like we are continually testing the descending triangle pattern. So it is almost as if Bitcoin is trying to break out at any point now. So we'll have to see what happens, but it seems to me that the next critical level is probably going to be 11,000, and some analysts are calling for 10,800. But ultimately, I think this will break out and will probably take us to about $16,000. But more importantly, guys, I think it is vital to remember that once we break these resistance levels, Bitcoin will be well on its way to make new all-time highs. And I believe that once we break $20,000, a 6-digit Bitcoin is entirely possible. For example, Bobby Lee is also calling for a $200,000 Bitcoin in, quote, a very short time. So hopefully it will be sooner rather than later, but we'll see. But in any case, guys, what I think is most important to realize is that Bitcoin continues to be used as an alternative to fiat money. And in this sense, it is essential to make a distinction between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. As most of you know, Bitcoin Cash was a fork from Bitcoin, so Bitcoin Cash is not technically Bitcoin. However, I think that as the Bitcoin Cash community keeps pushing their project, they're actually bringing awareness to Bitcoin itself. This is because ultimately, people want to pick the safest cryptocurrency out there. And the truth is that the safest crypto out there with the longest track record is Bitcoin. it is also the most liquid and widely accepted cryptocurrency out there. So I guess we should all be thankful for Bitcoin Cash as well. They seem to be bringing awareness to cryptos and Bitcoin, and this is a great thing overall. And as Bitcoin keeps getting even stronger, this is why we're seeing even Cubans using Bitcoin to bypass the US sanctions. These are all small developments that we see in the cryptocurrency space. However, when we take a step back, it is evident that Bitcoin as a whole is destined to change the world once it hits critical mass and adoption goes exponential. Keep in mind that we are still very much in the early days of Bitcoin. We are still about 30 million people in the cryptocurrency space, so the upside is just getting started. And I think this is why we still see corporations and countries thinking that they can create their own cryptocurrencies and that this will be enough to beat Bitcoin. But that's the point that they don't seem to get. One of the key features that make Bitcoin so valuable is that it is decentralized. This means that no government in the world can regulate Bitcoin or shut it down. And this is the sole reason why Bitcoin will always be superior to any other government or corporate issued cryptocurrency. And if you think about it, guys, this is why at the end of the day, we're seeing governments warming up to Bitcoin. Slowly but surely, we're witnessing the SEC coming closer to a Bitcoin ETF, or the Chinese is starting to realize the power of Bitcoin and crypto. And even Japan seems to be very supportive of Bitcoin as well. All around the world, there are governments starting to realize that Bitcoin should be embraced. And I think that long term, everyone will embrace Bitcoin and its benefits. And this is why today we have such an excellent opportunity to buy Bitcoin at these early stages. But one thing that is important to have in mind is that the Bitcoin we see today is not the same that will be out there in the future. For example, we are seeing that building second layer solutions and wallets on top of Bitcoin is becoming much easier now. And in the future, I think that second and third layer solutions on top of Bitcoin will make transactions so seamless that mass adoption will be inevitable. And by the way, I think that by then Bitcoin will fulfill all the qualities of money. And in particular, by then you'll be able to purchase even a cup of coffee with Bitcoin. Although one thing to have in mind is that in the future, I think one cup of coffee might cost about 1 Satoshi or less. So remember, guys, keep stacking sats. We might be on the cusp of a big move to the upside. And even if we break down, I would say it is just an opportunity to buy some more Bitcoin. On the long term, I think this will pay off very nicely for us. But that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching the video. Also, remember to leave a like and subscribe because it helps a lot. And with that, I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.